Right.
Any,
Welcome.
any,
Thanks again.
any news from Amrit?
Um, so we have to continue. I hope you guys you had a very nice weekend, and the journey continues, walking down together the road of victory. So today we are going to continue with evaluation and a few other, you know, um, important things we need to consider for, the rest of the DSR. So, so we are going to continue with evaluation today. You know, evaluation is such an important part of DSR. You know, they define it as a systematic determination of worth, merit, and significance, of something. Very, very, very important, because whenever you are designing an artifact, you are looking for a way to demonstrate, the efficacy, because usually what we evaluate utility, to show that the problem is actually solved, and you have to demonstrate it in empirical terms that the problem has been solved. So evaluation implies anything you can do to show that the artifact you designed, whether it be a framework, whether it be a model, whether it be an algorithm, whether it be an instantiation, actually solves the problem, for which you embarked, on that research. So that's why evaluation is very, very important. Sometimes in evaluation, you are trying to prove that what you came up with, your artifact, is better than the existing ones. And then you have to show the metrics. So metrics are very, very important. Usually this is one mistake people make when they write the qualification exams. You mention evaluation technique, but you don't mention the metrics. What are you evaluating? What are you evaluating? What are you comparing? It's a kind of, sometimes you compare the old system and the newest system you created and show what's the difference. Maybe how fast this one and how better is this one. In all ramification, you can demonstrate that. And also when you are doing evaluation, remember every artifact embodies some theoretical constructs. There are some theoretical principles, the kernel theory principles that provided inspiration for the design of the artifact. Some of the principles of design you took from the knowledge base. So all these principles goes into the artifact. Why there is so much emphasis on having a kernel theory, is because when you are evaluating the artifact, you're also evaluating the theory that the artifact embodies. So we explained that last week. So if you're able to confirm the workability or the usability of the artifact in real time in the field, then it could as well, argue theoretically, that this same theory that embodies, that the construct embodies, is also true in that particular scenario. Remember, we are not designing artifacts for a wider applicability. We are usually, limited to a particular context. So it is something contextual. You are designing an artifact to solve a problem identified as a relevant problem in an organization or setting. So, and your solution is an IT artifact, technology artifact. So let me continue to share now. So with this Professor Chatterjee's slide, found them very valuable. So we continue using them. So we have the genesis of the problem, and then we have the design solution. These are the possible things that you could, come up with as your design solution. So it could be an IT artifact, it could be constructs, it could be model, it could be methods, it could be instantiations through prototype, it could also be design theory. Each has its, own method and approach, to evaluation or being evaluated. So depending on, so you have to emphasize, be very conscious of what you hope to be the outcome or the solution to the problem that is being proposed on the day of exam. So if it happens to be a software remember the software is an instantiation. The software is an instantiation. If you came up with a method or a model or a framework, you also evaluate them differently. So we are going to see specifically, because most times if you look at the QE exams in the past years, usually most solutions are, some of the possible solutions you can propose are mostly software solutions. There are software solutions. So if it's a software solution, what it means that your output, your DSL output is an instantiation. It's a product, in a software product you are creating. You can also emphasize whether this is the final product or whether it's just the high fidelity prototype. We are also going to see prototyping, So you have to be specific what type of software output you have, and then we are going to see what kind of evaluation that is very important when you are evaluating a software. So determining merit and worth, significance of something, select your artifact, and then are you evaluating utility or efficacy or outcomes? You have to decide on that. So depending on the application domain, you have to recruit real subject users, and the making sure of eligibility criteria is important. Yes, this is very important. Depending, if you're working on healthcare, you might be needing the patients, you might need the doctors, you also might need the nurses, those who are going to use the artifact, those who are directly involved. So they are the users. So you are going to evaluate the artifact in the context of their usage. Now, this slide is very, very important. You have to pay very good attention to it. For constructs, if you came up with a construct or constructs, so validate them through theorizing. What does it mean? Usually, most of the constructs we come up with are based on or kind of drawn from certain theories, based on past literatures. So if you are coming up with theoretical constructs, so you validate them through theorizing, define them, because usually constructs is the pyramid we saw last week. The constructs are the base. At the base of that pyramid, that is conceptualization. Where you have the conceptualization and operationalization. So if you're evaluating constructs at that level, so you are taking defining them in a theoretical way, explain them as construct that could possibly lead to, a theory, a model. So if you imagine, then no evaluation, which means if you are the first person to come up with those constructs, you don't need to, there will be no evaluation for those constructs. Perhaps they are going to be texted by scholars within the field, So people are going to text it, scholars within the field are going to text the construct. So you may not need to have a pronounced way of evaluating them. For models and frameworks, apply framework to literature or survey experts in domain on how they think about it. Maybe it's an e-commerce, let's say you come up with an e-commerce model. You want to classify different types of e-commerce. So when you come up with this model, then have experts, e-commerce experts or people who are using e-commerce to see if what they are doing can fit into your framework. So it's a way you can also evaluate, and so survey experts in the domain on how they think it is valuable for them, or apply market product or services. Then methods and algorithms, performance via simulation, implementation, compare against existing methods and show how faster, better, or cheaper, for methods and algorithms. So if you're doing an algorithm for let's say for risk, so you must show proof, how it is better than whatever is existing in the industry. That will give you merit and worth to what you are doing. And then a prototype and instantiation, like for instance, the software we mentioned, you do usability testing, do field testing, show optimal outcome, show functionality, usability. And then for design theory, then design principles. Level 2 emerging theory. Remember, level 2 theory. Level 2 theories are mid-range. mid-range theory. Yeah, they don't have so much wider applicability as the grand theories, but they are not like so much context bound. So mid-range level 2. So you have to evaluate your design theory based on design principles and whether it meets, the level 2 mid-range theory. So in evaluation, we have either technical or socio-technical. So in the qualifying exams, you are going to mention, we mentioned last week form and function of the artifact. The form is how it is represented. Is it a software? Is it an algorithm? Or whatever form it takes. Then also see the features and the functions. Very, very important. So when you have done that, the next thing is, depending on the way the question comes up, when you come to the evaluation, you have to state what kind of evaluation that is needed. Technical performance usually have to do with texting the product itself. And socio-technical, socio means in the context of its usage by people in the industry or the users in the industry. So, so if you are doing the technical performance, you think about the outcome, the utility, the performance, the usability, the innovation, the acceptance, and improvement. You have analytical modeling, you have simulation, function testing, integer programming, experimental designs, measurement studies, performance studies, formal verification, unit testing. So unit testing is one of the concepts that is very necessary when you're doing agile software development. You design, you build the code, you do the code, and then you have the code texted by another developer, usually recommended, to test if the code is really running, before you do the integration and the functional testing. So the unit test could be a way you are evaluating the performance of the algorithm, or the performance of the software code. Experimental design could be like ANOVA, MANOVA, to compare different groups and see the outcomes in respect to the usage of the artifact. Then an analytical modeling and the measurement studies. Measurement studies compare with existing ones and see what's better. And then for socio-technical, show is better and improvement statistical evidence. You can use quantitative surveys, qualitative survey interviews, field studies through deployment, case studies, control studies, significant testing, theorizing, and theory building. So if you go to the DSR book by Professor Chatterjee and Z. Hebner Watts, so I asked you to read chapter 9. If you go to section chapter 9.5, section chapter 9.5, grabbing it here might waste. Let me see if I can minimize this, and then grab chapter 9.5. Chapter 9.5.
The art of performance.
The art, yeah, yes. Chapter 9.5 of that book. Oh, will I be able to scroll faster here? What is the page? Chapter 9.5 should be.
Book.
Yeah, look at. So these are some of my annotations. I do wonderful annotation. If you want to make, pass this exam very well, annotations are very well. They will help you.
Are you sharing? You're not sharing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not sharing. Okay, I have to stop this one and then reshare now. If you do annotation, usually annotation are going to be, they are very helpful. Can you see my screen now? So if you do annotate, look at all my annotations. Design must still be performed by appropriate theories that explain, and then cannot, so most of these things, qualitative novelty, a difference in the nature of the problems and solution, that is design science and the routine design. The first design in research emphasizes the domain in which the design activity will take place. I don't know if you are seeing this. Do you see these annotations in the copy I sent to you?
Let me check.
I think it was for the Dr. Samir books.
Huh?
Yeah, it was the textbook for Dr. Samir.
Yes. The one I shared with you, does it have these annotations?
Did you see the annotations, Mohammed?
Because I sent you a copy of mine and I did some annotation on them. You know, sometimes you can share the annotation, sometimes it doesn't share. But these are not originally on the textbook.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think so, no.
Because the one I'm sharing here, I can see my annotations. I don't know. I'm going to.
I don't see it on mine.
No.
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
Oh, I do see it. I do see where you did some, you highlighted.
The annotation part. Oh, yeah. Now I some
Yes.
highlight. I can see highlight only.
Yes.
Highlight.
Okay. So section 9.5. Okay. Different perspective to a new technology device. You know, these are the various ways you can evaluate. You know, for the patients, it could be, if this for healthcare, you know, we have developers, we have patients, we have doctors, we have. So these are the kind of the users that you are going to evaluating for. So the doctor asks, is it fast, is it accurate, is easy or easy of you to use? Will it help me? Is it safe for the patients? Developers, you know, does it work? Which function do they like? Will they use it? And this man here is talking about the money, cost benefit. Is it safe and reliable? So, but what I want us to look at is the 9.5. So performance. Performance is often a key criterion in the design of software systems and digital artifacts. So you have to mention performance evaluation. If your artifact happens to be software, don't fail to mention performance evaluation. And in addition to performance evaluation, you might also evaluate, you can also do usability, you know, usability texting. So evaluation is a critical for procurement and the use of computer-based systems. So the goal of the designer, scientists, analysts, and the users is to get the highest performance for a given cost. So all design science researchers must develop a basic knowledge of performance evaluation terminology and the techniques, comparing this system with other systems, similar systems, determining the optimal value of the parameter, finding performance bottlenecks, characterizing the load on the system, determining the number and sizes of components, and predicting the performance of future loads. No. So look at the tray. These are the tray. The three types of evaluation you need to do when it comes to performance. So it just mentioned, so your evaluation, your artifact is a software. You mentioned you are going to do doing technical and socio-technical evaluation. Maybe say for your technical, for my technical evaluation, since this is a software, you know, prototype, that you are going to do performance testing. And for your performance testing, you are going to do analytical modeling, or you are going to do simulation, or you're going to do measurement. So you see how you have to clarify whatever you are doing, from measuring your artifact, to measuring the type of evaluation, to measuring performance, to measuring what type of performance. Don't leave it hanging. You know, don't leave it hanging. And then after, you have to still mention metrics, you know. So take a moment to think what metric you need to choose to evaluate the performance of, okay, 2 disk drives. Disk drive may be capacity, you know, speed of retrieval of information, you know. 2, transaction processing on e-commerce system, maybe one of the metrics could be also
speed, reliability.
Yeah, yes.
Time analysis.
Check out speed or whatever here. So 2 packet rate transmission algorithms. Speed might also be, you know, load and other stuff might be
complexity. Oh,
yeah.
the ego. Yeah.
Yeah, so selecting an evaluation technique and selecting a metric are two key steps in performance evaluation projects. Selecting an evaluation technique and also selecting a metric. Please don't fail to mention your metric. Don't leave it hanging. And the performance is a kind of technical evaluation, you know? If you're doing simulation or if you're doing measurement, you know, it's a kind of, now, pay important attention to this. Criterion. At any stage, you know, criterion, how to select an evaluation technique. One, stage, any analytical modeling, anytime, simulation, anytime, measurement to post to prototype. If you say you are going to do a measurement evaluation, then you must have created a prototype. So you already have your prototype handy for you to measure. That is why it is post to prototype. Then time required. For analytical modeling may be small, simulation may be medium, measurement it varies. Tools, analytical modeling need analysts. Simulation, you need a software, measurement in instrumentation. Accuracy of analytical modeling may be low, simulation may be moderate, and measurement varies. Then trade-off evaluation. This one is easy, moderate, difficult. Cost. Analytical modeling may be small, medium for, and then very high for measurement. And then scalability, very low for analytical modeling, medium, and then high. So I want you to look at this again. Then you might.
Sorry, so analytical modeling, simulation, and measurement, those are types of what?
Performance evaluation.
Performance evaluation, okay.
Yeah, there are different types of performance evaluation. So, and these criterion are like metrics, you know, there are metrics to compare, but these are metrics to compare these three, you know, analytical techniques, evaluation techniques, performance evaluation techniques. So depending on what you think you need, like here it says that the measurement could be very difficult, and it is for post to prototype. So if it's very difficult, you might say, okay, no, I'm not gonna do it. Simulation can be at the stage. You have to pay attention to any. You can do analytical modeling at any stage, simulation at any stage, but measurement you must have created post prototype. You know, so not when you have you maybe it's still on the development stage, when you have not created, maybe you didn't create an actual prototype, and then you are doing measurement. And what are you measuring? You must have created a prototype, you know, for you to measure. So let me stop sharing this now, and then return back to the slide again. So for software, you know that performance is very important for software performance. And then you look at either simulation, analytical modeling, or measurement studies. So that's because I know possibly you are on the day of exam, your solution, you know, your solution or our artifact representation might be a software, might be digital. So that performance is for softwares and digital artifacts, you know, so digital artifacts. So like we have said, socio-technical system, like the word socio and the technical means, you know, coming together of people and the technical systems. So you can use interviews for evaluation. I know, you see, this is where most students got it wrong, you know, last semester with the DSR. So they were proposing quantitative and qualitative as though it is like methodology replacing DSR. No, but here you can see very clearly, but these are ways of evaluating an artifact within DSR. So you can do quantitative, you can do qualitative, you can do interview, you can do even focus groups. And use the focus groups to evaluate your artifacts. You can do controlled studies, theorizing, field studies. Through deployment, you can deploy the artifacts in the environment it will be used, and see how you can kind of verify its performance. So whom are you evaluating? We already saw this, So think about who are you evaluating for, and then mention it very clearly. Model, how useful is it to accomplish the goal? One could survey an expert, for a model, for method or algorithm, you can test its performance, compare against known methods, and then see analytical simulation, measurement techniques, for method and algorithm, digital artifacts. Instantiation prototype, you can do technical as well as socio-technical impact studies. Its usability, impact and usefulness. A key idea in DSR, you are evaluating your own design artifacts, unlike behavioral sciences, field in which someone else has a product or program which another group evaluates to study its impact. So that's the difference here.
So different stakeholders have required different evaluation.
Yeah. And the more stakeholders involved, the more time it takes to evaluate.
You have to evaluate for each stakeholder.
Yeah, you have to evaluate for each stakeholder. Have to tell the doctor wants to know if it's easy to use, and the patient wants to know, will it be useful for me? To solve my problem. Yeah. So that's the thing. Whoever is sponsoring it is also interested in the cost.
That's the most important stakeholder.
Yeah. So you have to show them that it's going to be of benefit. They're going to make money from it. So anatomy and philosophy evaluation study, someone wants the evaluation, you negotiate, and then enter into a contract, ask questions, do investigation, and provide a report. So all these logical positivists, other ones are not so much important. You can read them, you may not need them for exams. So quantitative use of statistical techniques, like we mentioned earlier, when you are conducting socio-technical evaluation, impact using either objectivist or subjectivist approaches, one typically collects data from a variety of sources. So these are the the statistical methods from quantitative research. So you can use any of these, to evaluate, the artifact. So mean, standard, or all these multivariate. All this is just to show that this artifact works better or is better than existing ones. Qualitative approaches, you can use, this, why I love Professor Chatterjee, like you mentioned, let's references to other things in case you have forgotten. With some qualitative approaches, your interviews, and then the tools you can use to do your qualitative data analysis. Performance is a key criterion for digital pro artifacts. Designer, scientist, analysts, and users' goal is to get the highest performance. So they are critical for procurement IT groups, as well as to prove the instantiation efficacy to journal reviewers. Do that, you need to develop a basic knowledge of performance evaluation terminology and techniques. So select appropriate evaluation techniques. Then the term metrics refers to the criteria used to evaluate the performance of the system. So response time could be one of your metrics. Throughput could also be one of your metrics. Then the requests made by the users of the system are called workloads. The workload of a database system could consist of queries and other. So the speed of response of the queries could also be a metric you use. So response time, throughput, and the other things you can come up with, through technical and socio-technical to prove the artifact utility. So what performance metrics should be used to compare the performance of these two cell phone, Droid, and then maybe, let me say, the one that we are very conversant in the world today is picture quality resolution, picture quality resolution. So it could be two cell phones, an Android, let's say Samsung S10 and the iPhone 12 or iPhone 13, So you are designing these two type of phones, and then users what are they interested? Maybe perhaps the person is a vlogger, a blogger, whatever way. They're interested in HD, 4K videos. You know, so they are going to do a comparison of these two phones, like camera resolution. You know, so if you are coming up with a new phone, perhaps you want to, and this is one area I think phone producers are usually, you know, they pay each year they try to increment the camera resolution. You know, so this is a kind of comparison to show that your camera is better than the existing cameras. So, and they assure vloggers that they are going to have a good quality pictures. So very, very important. Okay, we saw this already from the book. Google Scales. This should be the white paper that. Yes, this is the white paper. This is the paper that gave rise to what we have as Google today. You know, this particular paper, and then is the anatomy of a large-scale, hypertextual search engine. So this is the changing. Me and Brian, Sagi, and Lawrence, 1998. So this is where they revolutionized the world with this paper. This is a white paper. So this is the statistics, the web page statistics they analyzed. So three handy performance evaluation techniques, analytical modeling, simulation, measurement, you know. So these things are repetitions. Example of evaluating personal tablet design. Maybe look at the processor. Like a friend called me today. He said he wants to buy a new. He was robbed in Nigeria. Wants to buy a new phone. He said, okay, you want to buy a phone? Say a very good phone you can buy. You think about maybe you need a phone that has a RAM of at least 6 gig, and then 6 gig RAM, 128 gig. You know, storage memory could be good. And what else do I have? So if you have it's 12 megapixel front and back camera, that would be okay for you. You know, so evaluating personal tablets, these are the things you might need to consider. So experimental designs, the goal of the proper experimental design is to obtain the maximum information with a minimum number of experiments. A proper analysis of experiment also helps in separating out effects of various factors. So how does one estimate the performance? Response time variable, outcome of the experiment measured, performance of the system could be task completed per seconds. So factors, each variable that affects the response variable. There are 5 factors in the tablet design. So like we saw earlier, they are sometimes called predictor variables. So all these things are the things you need to do if you're doing an experimental design. Simple factorial. We all saw this when we did a quantitative survey. Yeah. There is one particular tool that I want to mention here. That is the system usability testing. The system usability testing. Look at it here. You know, the SUX scores. So Ray and the user subject. So this SUS is a kind of an already validated quantitative survey scale you can use to, you know, gather data from users about. So I mentioned this when I did my own exam, you know. So you want to do some technical performance about the usability of the software. Don't fail to mention SUX. Very, very important. So, and also for algorithms, show how your method is faster. You know, scale small or simply better than the previous solutions. Choose wise metrics. You know, choose wise metrics. So this SUS score is for usability. So in addition to, you might mention you are going to do performance, you're going to do like simulation, or you're going to do measurement study if you have a prototype already, and then mention some of the metrics you're going to use, and also say in addition, you are also going to evaluate usability, and then you're going to use the SUS scores. It's already a validated instrument for measuring usability. So, and it has about 10 item questionnaire, you know, with 5 response options for respondents. So the SUS scale is very good because it is already validated. Look at the questions you have to ask. You don't need all these things in the exam, but you need to mention that you use SUX and prove that you know what it's used for. So that's the most important thing. So intervention studies, experimental, there are too many other things here that may not be necessary. Case study, you know, before and after study, just to compare your prototype, how we can improve. So you can read most of this in randomized control trial, control group, intervention group. So these are all experimental methods of evaluating your artifact. So that's all about evaluation. So is there anything like very confusing about? Is there anything you need to be clarified more when it comes to evaluation? Is there anything? Because I think it's a very, very important criteria you need to establish during the exams. You need to mention it. I hope it's very clear. Do you have any other confusion, concerning evaluation? Because you must really mention it. So it's something very, very important. And there is no other place you can ask the question now than now we are still here. On that day, you might not have the opportunity again. So is there anything like you
So for the artifact, we don't need to prove it's working, right? For the exam, we just need to provide, we design the artifact, then for the, solve the problem, something like that.
I didn't get you clearly. What did you say?
So for the qualified exam, we don't need to prove our artifact. The artifact we design is working to solve this problem, right?
Yeah, because you are not all you need to state what you are going to do.
And with the evaluation, or just prove,
just demonstrate you know what to do. That's what this exam is all about.
Oh,
demonstrate that you know what you need to do. Because when someone tells you, he knows how to do something and states how he can do it, you have no doubt trusting that he has the knowledge. So that's what this exam wants to test you. Just show that you know how to do. Of course, you don't have any artifact you are evaluating at that point in time.
So we don't need the word called result. We don't need the result for the artifact we design, but we know how to evaluate the artifact. That's probably okay. Yeah.
So the next slide I'm going to share now is I think we have like mentioned most important factors we need for this qualifying exam. So I'm going to kind of quickly run through the remaining slides, because most of the things you might need to maybe consider depending on the kind of artifact you are designing, but we have like covered most important details that you need to bear in mind. So here it says about human-centered design, ethnography and the qualitative practices. I think this whole area is trying to tell us, we are designing for human beings, understand? And ethnography is all about study of culture, understanding the people you are designing this thing for. Understand, what problems they are really encountering and how can this and empathy is very, very, very important when it comes to human-centered design. Empathy. And if we go through these slides, we are going to see most of the things, the threshold scales, factors inflation threshold, these are not necessary. Different trends, human-centered design. The result of a good design is a satisfied customer. The process of design is a collaboration between designers and customers. The design evolves and adapts through changing concerns and process. The customer and the designer are in constant communication. All these things like things you need to know. The new way of software design, agile, discipline of software must train its practitioners to be skilled observers of the domain of action in which a particular community of people engage. Domain of action means in a broad way specialized domains like medicine, law, banking, generalized domain like work, career, entertainment, education. Software engineers must reframe design from a process of driving software from specifications to a process of supporting standard practices in domain through software that enables it. Of course, if you're doing software design, if you are doing it in real time, it's usually a customer-centric. Agile development is like one of the best way. People are not going for the traditional, because of a lot of, overheads and the documentation, that and then it's not malleable to changes. So sometimes you can be designing the wrong software at the end. So, but agile development keeps the customer in focus, and on the loop as you are doing it, so that at the end you will surely end up with something that the customer wants because he's part of, playing the role. So because that's the basic idea this area is trying to capture when it comes to design. So, practice of ethnography in design. We know about ethnography. It is applying it in design. And how does ethnography play an important role? Studying the people, when you understand the habits, the culture of the people, their behavior and their language. Sometimes you can design a software encoded with a language that people don't understand. So you must have a target group. So I hope this system is going to be used in these different countries to provide multilingual software that can, all these things are like keeping humans in the loop as you are putting ethnography in focus as you are, designing a software, an artifact, interacting with the people, understanding them better, gives you a better experience. Ethnographic methods: visual, qualitative, verbal, quantitative, surveys, questionnaire, linguistic, visual, passive observation, participant observation, all these things are already traditional group, focus groups, method, ethnography in commercial settings. Ethnography, design, marketing, and interdisciplinary. So ethnography.
Is this in Hefner's book?
What?
Is this in Hefner and Chatterley's book?
Yes. I don't know if it is really well captured there.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is the slides. So we're not going to go through all this because this is all about ethnography. So as a researcher, you should have known where ethnography comes in design. The basic concept remains the same, and applying it in design, it also has the same connotation as the ethnography that you and I know as a qualitative method, that focuses on understanding people's culture. So, we go over to the next. What do we have next in there? So just quickly running through. So that's all about ethnography. And we don't know where they are going to come from this year. So it's good we touch upon most of those things. And if you have time, if you want to go in details, but bet me you may not have all the time to go through all those stuff. So when I know things that really helped me during the exam, I dwell on them and I emphasize them. Things that are not necessary, we just leave them. So the next thing we are going to see is design and creativity. Design and creativity. So it's a whole lot of slides, and if I should summarize this area, you already know what, like we sometimes are dealing with wicked problems, and the definition of a wicked problem is a problem that requires human creativity, intuition, imagination, and the human logic, to really understand the problem, because this problem doesn't have an existing solution. So it is something completely new, and you want to create an innovative solution. That's why creativity, we draw so much on human creativity, and human creativity is like something that is psychological. Some people have argued it is part and parcel of call it something that is genetically part of man, and some also say it can also be nurtured, through experience, So through experience, people can also acquire a lot of knowledge and experience that can help them to tackle problems that are very new, and devoid of existing solutions. So creativity is very, very important. It says here that it creates something novel that has a lasting value, And sometimes creativity is a kind of we use creativity to argue against kernel theories, And Professor Chatterjee will say sometimes you don't have a kernel theory to inform your design. So draw upon your creativity. Even though, yes, because with creativity, you may not have a kernel theory, But if you are very creative people are still out there creating new things to, every day that solves, problems for people. But sometimes because it doesn't know the way of research design, because it doesn't have a theory. It's like that theory is the whole idea, the whole idea of the scientific and the systematicity that goes with research paradigm is usually linked with theory in our field. So when you don't have theory, it is taken that it is not research. That's the problem with IX. So, but we can still draw upon creativity. People creative something, but for the interest of this exam, please mention that you are going to find a good kernel theory that explains for the sake of mentioning it, just to prove that you also know that theories could provide inspiration or prescriptive guide to your design of your artifact. Just to mention it, But in real time, in real world, when we are faced with problems that doesn't have solution, existing solution, we usually draw upon creativity. So if you want to read, you can read the rest of, understanding the problem, devising a plan, carrying out a plan. It has a lot of, this is an aspect that Professor Monk didn't cover. Okay, you didn't see this slide in your class. Yes, yeah, it's not there. Because maybe she didn't pay so much attention to this area. And then for the QE exam, these slides are not really they're not really important, but just that's why I'm just skipping through them, flipping through them. Yeah, because the whole idea is like relying on your mental capacity and then figuring out the best way to solve a problem. Other ones here are just the rest of the things we have here are like research to work from scholars on how to go about creativity. So we have a lot of guidelines, group creativity model, visualizing experiential learning, experiential creativity, visual worlds, conceptual blockbusting, research hypotheses, dissertation goals, visualizing experiment. Okay, this is like a dissertation from one of our students. And that's all. You can read more. Nobody's going to ask you any question on them, but you can see a question that might need to mention creativity in passing, especially weekend problems. Rely on creativity, and in fact, your creativity. Your creativity will be demonstrated on the day you are answering, the way you answer the questions. So when you are presented with that wicked problem, you are going to think for a while before you start answering. So you start applying your creativity, in the way you are going to answer the question. And then we have prototyping. This is another topic that is very, very important. That
so Clement, if you
yes.
don't mind, so like, do you have an idea about how the how the question could come in the part that you was explaining about for the creativity? Yeah, like can you, like, any example in your mind about creativity?
They have never in the past, they have never asked you any question particularly on what is creativity or whatever. Understand? But like, you apply the creativity in the context of answering the question. That's how you can showcase that creativity in you if you're answering the question. They're not going to ask you what is creativity. They don't ask that kind of questions in QE.
Okay.
Like those who took this class the last semester, they didn't even discuss creativity. The professor didn't discuss creativity. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's like how to make the achievement, how to achieve better task, or like how to get your work better.
Is it creativity?
Yeah, as a creativity in my context is about doing excellent thing and like more than supposed to.
That may be part of it, but it's like drawing from your, drawing from your intuition, drawing from. Sometimes we say people, there are people who are genius. They are gifted. Sometimes people attribute creativity with giftedness. Giftedness. It is a kind of a mental capacity, ability for people to think out, something that is going to be useful. It could be a kind of maybe a try and error way of doing things, but it is a product of human ingenuity. Let me put it that way. Product of human ingenuity, ability to think out something that could solve a lasting problem. Someone can wake up, from bed and say, I think this approach can solve a problem. Let me just try it. It is completely out of the blue. So it's that mental capacity, which could be genetic. It could be also a product of nature. That is, nature. Sometimes there are people who are genius. We know, people like Albert Einstein who have multiple patents and inventions. Not everyone is like them in their own age, in their own century. So, and then also creativity could also be something, acquired, through experience. Maybe you have worked in an industry in a particular domain for years, and then a new problem comes up. You begin to think, reason, think and figure out, drawing from experience and the rest. And then, come up with a very innovative solution. Like inventions are usually products of creativity. For someone to make a new invention, something that has not been there for ages. It's very difficult in our time, to make an invention. Usually what we do is kind of building on existing, products, or creating a more effective and more efficient version of things that are already there. So I hope that's very clear.
Yep. Thank you, man.
Yeah. So prototyping. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. So we are prototyping. So okay, you already know what prototyping. We did when we did the proto.io. Where does prototyping come into design? We have two types of prototyping. We have the higher fidelity. We have the lower fidelity.
Monk didn't talk about any of this.
He doesn't talk of, yes. That's what I'm saying. And it's Professor Chetaji who sets these exams, So that's why you need these two perspectives. So this, these slides and the subsequent and the former one, he didn't mention it. So we have low fidelity prototypes, and we are going to see them, as we are moving, and then high fidelity prototypes. So the low fidelity prototypes are like sketches, drawing that doesn't reflect the actual product. Wireframing, you know about wireframing in design. Sometimes people do wireframing to show, how the layouts of the software, the different connections, the different pages, and how they are connected and interconnected. Do wireframing just to demonstrate how the software is going to work. These are like low fidelity prototype. A higher fidelity prototype is the actual product. A prototype of the actual, but we still call it prototype because a prototype could also be what we call a proof of concept. A proof of concept. Proof of concept is to show that the system you are building is going to work. It's workable, it's fixable. So it's not like an idealistic concept that is not achievable in practice. So coming up with a prototype, you can also use prototype to, usually while we in design, we come up with a prototype, which is a miniature form of the final product. If it is high fidelity, which means you have already built the actual thing, but the minimum viable product of the software. is also a prototype, because it doesn't have all the features. So you can use the prototype to solicit, feedback from users, from those you are designing the software for, to know what they really want about the software, whether they need additional features to be added, or there are things that need to be removed. So it is a kind of an iterative process. With the prototyping, you keep on prototyping, keep on, incrementing your design, keep on refining your design until you get an actual final product. So your solution in the exam, on the day of exam, might be your software may not be the final software. It may be just a prototype of the software. So you said that you may need to evaluate them more, maybe get the whole approval you need from FDA if it is a healthcare device, and the rest. So a prototype means.
Did you say the final prototype, the final high fidelity thing is also a prototype and not the finished product?
The final product is not a prototype. The prototype is the final artifact is still in development. Still in development. So when it gets out of the prototype phase, it becomes the final end product. Yeah. So if you say your product is going to be a software product, you didn't mention a prototype, then it's two different things. That you have an outcome which is like a software, which means you have the final version of the software. Some other person could say my final output will be a prototype of the same software. But explain why it has to be a prototype, why you call it a prototype,
So are you saying that when it comes to design research, the kind of things that can be designed, like frameworks, model, instantiation, all those things, does prototype cover all those kind of categories?
No, prototype doesn't really come into all those.
The prototype only comes into what? Does software
instantiations, yeah.
Just instantiation.
Instantiations, yeah.
So
but
you can have a software prototype.
You can also use prototyping, like as I said earlier, as a proof of concept. Understand? It is mostly used when you are doing an actual product, but someone can apply it. I've never seen anywhere, applying it to a model or a framework. So let's say your output is going to be a software, then we stick to whether it's going to be a prototype or not going to be a prototype. So low fidelity or high fidelity, mostly applicable when you have an instantiation, So different kinds we see with high fidelity and low fidelity. Look at this miniature car, miniature building. It's like a toy, but it's like a prototype. In the car industry, I'm a huge fan, of cars, and then so sometimes when I'm not doing anything, I look at cars, because sometimes people call me from Nigeria and ask me, want to buy a car and the rest. So sometimes I research on cars. Like we have concept cars, beautiful concept cars. They are like prototypes. They have not gone into mass production. They may show you, oh, this car is beautiful. I said it will begin production in 2030.
It sounds like different. I mean, for the physical product and the software.
Yeah. So they showcase the prototype. So those what we call concept cars might as well be the prototypes of the real version of the car. So we call them concept cars. And then it will be funny when you hear them, say that it will begin production by 2030. So why showing us the car? What's the sense of?
And the worst part of it is that when the actual model comes out,
yes,
it will be less than what you saw in the prototype for most of these car manufacturers.
Of course, yeah, they begin to do a lot of compromises because
compromise up and down. That's why I like Tesla. Elon Musk will tell you that the concept, when the real car comes out, the real car will be better than the prototype or the concept.
Oh yes, that kind of thing. So that's really interesting.
I think prototype is like a sample where the experiment is going on about it.
If you have, like, for those concept cars, that's a high fidelity because it reflects the actual thing. Understand?
Yeah, it's like a demo. You know?
Yeah, put in another word.
You know, like those cars, if you guys have an idea, like in the showrooms or the dealerships, the one that they display. So especially I'm talking about the very expensive cars.
Yeah, the supercars.
Yeah, so they put them in the showrooms, and then when the time they want to sell them, they sell them in very like low priced comparing to the actual price, because always like it already was like as a prototype or as a sample, like to be showed to the people. So for example, if the price of the car is 50,000, they sell it for 40,000.
Yeah. So why prototype? You know, so this might clarify you more. Evaluation and feedback are central to interaction design. Stakeholders can see, hold, interact with a prototype more easily than a document or drawing. Team members can communicate effectively. You can text out your ideas for yourself. It encourages reflection. Every important aspect of the design. Prototypes answer questions and support designers in choosing between alternatives. You see why it is necessary, you know. So choosing between alternatives as a tool for communication, you know, as a tool of convincing stakeholders, you know, about the feasibility of the product, you know, a way of obtaining feedback, a way of evaluating your design. So these are very important things. That's why. So if you are, if you mention that your output is going to be a prototype, so draw upon these ideas to explain why you called it a prototype instead of the final product.
So what kind of questions come out from prototyping? Is there an example you can remember?
In the past,
yeah,
in the past they can ask you maybe sub questions.
Okay.
In sub questions, yeah, there's sub question, but not the major question. You know, what is a prototype and why is it necessary in design? Yes, such questions have been asked in the past. Yeah. So, but it can come in another way. Sometimes they are not very explicit. So, but once it is mentioned, well, the question comes, you know, on prototype, you can draw most of the questions in IX in the QE exam. You know, sometimes it draws from any parts of, because all this research is an integral whole, whether it is quant, qual, DSR, you know, it's all they are like an integral. The way I see them, they are an integral whole. You can be doing qualitative, and then you ask a question from quantitative, you're answering. You can be doing DSR, you're using an answer from, so whatever area you know, like you see all these things are chained, you know, there's an overlap, you know, with all this, because they are still the same thing you are doing. You know, so you can draw your inspiration from anywhere to answer any question. So don't containerize your mind. You know, so you have to be open to apply knowledge from any parts, any course in the IX to answer any question. It makes sense. As a researcher, you have the flexibility.
I think I came up with the right definition of the prototype though. Long time ago, I used to like work for an IT company, a big IT company that intend to like rebuild the Iraq Republic. So I was in the IT department, and then we used to make tenders. Tenders is like you make an offer to a party that wanna supplies, like you offer them that, for example, you will supply them for 10,000 computers. So what you like when we send the offer, we supply with a sample, like we give them a sample about the type of the computer that they will they're supposed to get it if they make the deal. So I think based on this definition that I sent you the textbook, It's like the prototype is kind of sample they will try and test. If they like it, they will take the deal. If they don't like it, they will not take the deal. Do you guys get the idea?
So it's basically feedback, like this slide mentioned.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So it's basically obtaining feedback about requirements, about it could be about its usefulness or whatever, you know, from those who are going to use it. So
Yeah.
it has multiple reasons. So this one is like a very good definition, but it goes just beyond feedback. So you have to mention other stuff. So the slide is more comprehensive than this single definition. So what drives an organization? You know, some innovation cultures are specification driven, others are prototype driven. So small entrepreneurial companies built around a brilliant product concept, you know, tend to be prototype driven. Oh, small companies, you know, they're prototype driven. Companies that need to coordinate large volumes of information and to manage a large installed base of users. Companies such as IBM, AT&T, Etena tend to be specs driven. Spec driven culture also draws heavily from market research data before they move concepts into the prototyping cycle. In prototyping cultures, prototypes are often used to elicit market feedback before final production. Organizations intending to be innovative must move from specification driven to prototype driven. You see, so to be innovative, you must move from specification to prototype driven. What is a prototype? Technical issues, workflow, task design, screen layout, and information display. You know, difficult. For screen layouts, you know, wireframing, you know, or proto.io, it is help you to know the different connections. So difficult, controversial, critical issues, not just the changing schemes. So it's not just changing schemes. Should I play this video?
Up to you, sir.
I
think you have intention to do it. Click.
Yeah, play.
Okay.
There is no audio though.
No audio?
Yeah.
I think you can share your audio. I think there's a setting in Zoom that allows you to share audio.
Yeah, sometimes when it comes to sharing videos, you know, Zoom can just mess up.
Yeah.
Yeah, even sometimes like I try to make a recording for my Zoom meetings. It just records with the video, it doesn't record the voice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, we're not gonna waste our time on this video. Let me see if I can grab.
Hey Clement, do you rent me your password for Canvas? Can you rent to me your password for Canvas so I can go there and get all of those slides and then get back to you? I'll make sure that I will get back to you. Don't worry. I will not close your account.
Oh, copy link. Copy. Can someone try playing from his own computer, because I'm using a TV. I'm actually doing this presentation from my computer via a Facebook portal. Can someone try? I posted the link on the chat.
Yeah, can you give me share? Allow me to share so I can see if I can play it for you guys.
Yes, it's in the chat.
Yes, I've given a permission for multiple sharing.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah. Mohammed started sharing. So let me stop sharing.
Do you guys hear the voice?
No,
No?
no voice.
Well, I can't hear it. No voice?
Anyway, stop sharing. You can listen that at your own leisure. Now you have a copy to your files.
Let me try sharing. Maybe.
Okay.
Let me just try.
Okay.
No, I know. Okay, you also have Windows, and I have Windows. So if it don't work with me, I don't think so will work with you. But let's.
I have Mac. Yeah, I was using Mac.
Are you able to hear it?
Yeah, I
Nothing.
can see
But
that.
you're not even sharing yet. You're not sharing the video yet.
Data.com. What is our website for?
ICD10 data.com.
Is it the coding?
Oh, there it is.
Experiments that look at how prototyping practices impact design outcome. There is some evidence that prototyping practices affect outcome. There's a ceramics teacher comes into class first day, splits his class up into two different groups. He tells one group, you're going to be graded entirely on quantity. Produce as many ceramics as you can within the. He tells the other group, you're going to be graded on quality. Create one really good ceramic and you're going to be graded on that one. Bales and Orland, who reported this story, wrote that while the quantity group was busily churning out work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group sat theorizing about.
This week we have Stephen Dow. Stephen has been with us as a postdoc since graduating from Georgia Tech, where he did interesting work on how people respond to presence in sort of different kind of role-playing situations. Here he switched his attention to design theory and how do we evaluate different design processes, and in particular his focus has been on prototyping, which is what he will talk about.
Thank you, Terry. Today's talk is going to present a series of experiments that look at how prototyping practices impact design outcome. There is some evidence that prototyping practices affect outcome. There's the ceramics story. Ceramics teacher comes into class first day, splits his class up into two different groups. He tells one group, you're going to be graded entirely on quantity. Produce as many ceramics as you can within the quarter. He tells the other group, you're going to be graded on quality. Create one really good ceramic and you're going to be graded on that one. Bales and Orland, who reported this story, wrote that while the quantity group was busily churning out work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group sat theorizing about perfection, and in the end had little more to show for their efforts than grandiose theories in a pile of dead clay. And I think all of us would agree that iteration is valuable given enough time. But Michael Schrag argues that production schedules often discourage iteration in favor of realization, that people take fewer risks under pressure. And this aversion to iteration is defended as, well, we don't have time. We don't have time to iterate. So we approach this question empirically. Is it valuable to continue eliciting feedback when the common intuition is to stop iterating and start refining? So we conducted a between-subject study with 28 participants and manipulated their ability to iteratively prototype and get feedback within a creative design task. Our hypothesis is that iterating multiple times under those intense time constraints will produce better results than allocating that time to a single product or prototype. It's very difficult to measure what's going on creatively in one's head. The trick here was picking a design task that was somewhat representative of real-world design, yet at the same time allowed us to compare outcomes. So our solution to this was the egg drop design task. So We gave all the participants a set of materials, the same set of materials, and they designed their egg in this little, or their vessel in this area right next to the drop zone. So they were working with the materials. It was a hands-on activity. People came up with widely different ideas, and then they could test drop their egg vessels right next to the design area. Our experiment had two conditions. Participants in the non-iteration group were given one egg and told that it would be used in the final egg drop. In the iteration group, they were given a carton of eggs, and then they were encouraged to test drop their eggs periodically. What was important here is that participants across both conditions disposed of all their prototypes after the design phase. So at this point in the experiment, everything was thrown away, and they came into this final build stage with only what they had learned, and then we had the final egg drop. So what did our results show? Well, comparing conditions, the results showed that under time constraints, the several rapid iterations, those several rapid prototypes yielded better results than allocating that time to just refining a concept. Overall, both conditions produced a wide variety of vessels. The interviews provided additional insight into how participants approached feedback differently and why feedback mattered.
Experimentation with materials is important at the very beginning, so you figure out like everything possible that you can do with them, and then it's also really important to see like what actually happens when it hits, because my first design I didn't realize it would hit so hard or hit at different angles.
So people got their feedback.
Sorry?
Yeah, I think we have gotten the gist.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, so that's the importance of prototyping, comparing it like alternatives, looking at different alternatives, and by the end of the design product, you have something very unique that might even be different from the original prototyping than to focus on refining a single product. You know, 5G. So that's one of the takeaway from that video. Better to try many options and then come up with a final option that will be a product of what you learned, from all the failures and the mistakes, than to focus on refining something, one option. So what it means that prototyping might, the kind of prototyping you do, you have to consider the cost, because trying different alternatives might have some cost overheads. Yeah. All those things might be put into consideration. So sometimes a low fidelity prototype could be good. Show how things are going to be. Like for a software, people can just do wireframing. I use most of these prototyping softwares out there, like proto.io, and show how the product is gonna be. Let me start sharing again. Yeah. We are approaching time to go for recreation. I think the problem with a Zoom video is sharing YouTube is sometimes there is difference between sharing your screen and sharing a folder. It looks like when you shared your screen, we got the voice, right? Okay.
Yeah, so when I shared the screen, there was an option that from Zoom that says share voice or sound or something. So I hit that one.
Yeah. So look at low files. These are prototypes. This is the kind of one, okay? This is the kind that your son will draw when he comes back from school. It's also a prototype. All these sketches and drawings. So sample storyboard. Then the high fidelity. For high fidelity, uses materials that would expect to be used in the final product. Looks more like a final system, than a low fidelity version. So for a hi-fi software prototype, common environments include Micromedia Director, Visual Basic, Smalltalk. Danger that users think they have a full system, see compromises. Yeah. So our prototypes involve compromises. A software-based prototyping, maybe there is a slow response, sketchy icons, limited functionality. Two common types of compromise: horizontal, provide a wide range of functions, but with little detail. Vertical, provide a lot of detail, only fewer functions. Compromises in prototype mustn't be ignored. Product needs engineering. So questions that a prototype can answer. Prototypes are designed to answer questions. The quantity and the kind of questions that generate prototypes are at the heart of prototyping culture. So different questions may require different kind of prototyping media, such as firmware, plastic, digital. Note that sophisticated questions do not necessarily need sophisticated prototypes to answer them. Conversely, seemingly simple questions may defy even the most creative efforts to prototype. So the questions that are not asked are just as important as the one that are asked. Often, prototyping can generate new vocabulary. So who owns the prototype, who manages it, who gets to see it and when, who determines, is there any internal model shop responsible for prototype on demand, the high Silicon Valley engineers are happy to show their prototype to their peers while devoid of showing prototypes to the executives. Never show fools unfinished work.
That's good.
Yeah. So you see, Silicon Valley engineers, they are happy to show their prototype to their peers, but they avoid the executives. People can just conclude. They can just conclude. So after all this time, you just spent in just coming up with this rubbish. Say, oh, no, I've not finished. They've already made up their mind.
And pulled the plug on your funding.
Yeah. Never show fools unfinished work. It's very funny. Good ideas may be rejected by well-informed managers, by ill-informed managers, ill-informed managers. So convincing people could be very difficult, so.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially if the manager comes with a different background that is not related to the work that you're doing. Like a new manager is hard. It is very hard to let them know why you need this thing, and how this thing can help you, because they don't know your business routine that you do every day.
And sometimes, within an organization or setting, there are people who are also, either jealousy or envy. How could this idea be coming from a lower employee? They would have loved to be the ones who initiated the ideas, because it's coming from someone who is lower placed in the organization. They tend to, disparage or discharge completely the idea. Some such things also exist. Human beings.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, they say they think could be like, oh, they're gonna get promotion. I should get the
They're gonna get promotion. Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, you're right.
We find a lot of things within an organization. So there are also people who set others up with false accusations, and then just to have them, dismissed or fired. Many people who were fired in organizations are not actually the cause of their problem. Somebody simply did.
Yeah, as Professor Ryan says, there is no truth, man. So it's like there is no truth, You never know the truth. You never know the truth. So
yeah, why involve users? Expectation manager, realistic expectation, no surprises, no disappointment, timely training, communication, but no hype. Make the users active stakeholders, more likely to forgive or accept problems, can make a big difference to acceptance and the success product. Rapid prototyping, agile methods, extreme programming, software prototyping, mobile app coding, start sketching prototype. It's better to and version apps and then justinmind.com. So these are prototyping, like proto.io should have been here, for part of prototyping software, rapid software development. So rapid prototyping with 3D printing. Yeah, 3D printing is today, kind of prototype. There is this thing I'm seeing on Facebook. I don't know if it's well silicon. People will put their car with their hand in a bucket and then pour the first one, they remove their hand, and they pour the second one, and then remove the outer layer, and then you see a kind of a sculptural work. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's a kind of a new way of a sculptor, you know, doing a sculpture. People mold things. Yeah.
I seen you know, have you guys heard about the video game tester? Have you heard about it? It's like, you know, like when they develop when they design and develop a video game like for computer or for PlayStations, before they release it on the testing phase, they hire like gigs, video games gigs to play the game, to test it. So I think that also like the prototype is also considered a testing phase.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I just remember this thing like
each
for the
company have their own models of prototyping. Generic software process model, we have the waterfall, the evolutionary, the format, and then the reuse base. Prototyping at Google, Microsoft model, 3D printing, and then references. And that's all about prototyping. You know. So how many models do we have remaining?
So this, Clement, this all the like the Dr. Shatter's textbook chapters?
Yes, you are gonna see all these things spread out in that textbook. You're gonna see them all spread out.
And all of the slides, PowerPoint slides was written by Dr. Shatari?
By who?
By Dr.
Chatterjee.
Samir?
No, it looks like it was collaborated with somebody else. Let me check there. I don't think that's who are they. Okay, Alan Hebner and Chatterjee. Hebner and Chatterjee. So both of them wrote the book.
And the slides are okay. So both of them, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So we take this is almost let's take 15 minutes and we're back.
Yeah. Clement, my classmate Ahmed Samari, I think. Yeah. He trying to like to get access to the Google Drive.
Who?
Ahmed. And he gave me his email. Can you add him, please, if you don't mind?
I added him already. You can drop it on the WhatsApp. I think I've added everyone.
But he still cannot see it.
I hope it is not the same problem you have. They will give you one email and then use another to log in.
Yeah, here's what he did. Like he logs in the other day. He told me he logs in from his child computer.
So he can access it through Google. I think I've added everybody.
Okay, let me
also send his Gmail again. Let me check up because I'm sure I've added everyone.
He wanna like take advantage of the summertime and read.
Yeah, you know, I'm still gonna discuss with you guys. You know, how is it gonna be? Because CGU says this workshop.
You can stop the recording if you'd like to.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've forgotten. Yeah, pause. Say everything you know about the question and always prove this. This question is like you know, there is one advice, you know, I call it's very, very just lacking the right word to express, you know, do I say quintessential, you know, advice, you know, given to me by one of them. A student who took the exams before us. He asked me if you want to pass these exams. And I'm also passing the same information to you. If you want to pass this exam, assume the mindset of a researcher.
Like how?
Assume the mindset of a researcher. Don't just answer questions as a student. Put yourself in the shoes of a researcher. Answer the question like you are the one researching. You are doing your own thing. You are applying your own principles. You know, there's a difference between answering a question as a student and assuming the mindset of a researcher. You know, as a student, sometimes you try to maybe give your teacher back what he gave you in the classroom. Explain things the way they were explained in the classroom, you know. Yes, in a normal classroom exams. But as a researcher, you can take a different perspective, or you know, you can decide to go contrary to whatever anybody have written. You can come up, you have that flexibility to come up with what you think is more appropriate. No longer what the teacher said in the classroom. You can even decide to criticize Van Katesh. You can say, oh no, Professor Ryan is wrong. Because look at your perspective and look at the reason why you say that Ryan is wrong. So that's a researcher's mindset, you know. But if you're writing a classroom exam, you might have tendencies to try to be careful so that you look at and ensure you get things right the way it is. You know, it's necessary at that point to get things right and learn the important concepts, you know. So, but when you are answering the qualifying exam, you say, this is how I'm going to do it. And this is why I'm going to do it this way. Put your reasons across, but ensure your reason does not contradict conventional wisdom, what everyone knows to be true. But you can critique ideas, you can decide, because what you're going to, you will receive papers that you will critique.
Well, honestly, Clement, like 1 week for 2 long articles.
Three articles. They may not be too long. It may be one, maybe long, one, others may be short, maybe medium in length. And then, so let's not say 3 long articles, you know. The conference articles are usually very short, you know. We are going to see them in due time, you know. So, like I will begin with our own exams, and then we can choose other years randomly. So now we are here faced with the action design research. You know about action research? Action research that usually involves a deliberate intervention in an organizational setting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to action research, there are many important principles, but the one you usually will see is the BIA, the building, intervention, and evaluation. You are collaborating in action research, collaborating with people in the organizational setting to design the artifact. Which means maybe as a researcher, you are bringing in your research skills and your theories, and they're also bringing in their expertise and the practical skills and knowledge. So as team of researchers, you, the researcher and the organization, you become a team of researchers. You collaborate together to design the artifact, which means the artifact emerges within the organization. The iteration of the artifact, the development of the different phases of the artifact happens within an organizational setting. It's different from a field deployment, where you design an artifact and then you deploy it in the field or in the organization to test how it works. In action design research, you are collaborating with the organization, and the artifact emerges, is designed, and it emerges within it takes the form within that organization setting. If it is prototyping, it emerges within the organization, which means the context of the organization is necessary, for the full definition of the artifact. Take away the organization, it ceases to be action research. That context is necessary. That context defines the artifact. The artifact emerges within that context. And the one thing very peculiar about action design research is that in other types of research, usually evaluation, is relegated to a certain phase in the design process of the artifact. But in action research, you are building and at the same time evaluating. That's why we call it building, intervention, and evaluation. You are building the artifact, you are intervening deliberately within the organization, and at the same time, you are evaluating. So evaluating does not come at a different phase. It occurs and happens, as the development or the design of the artifact emerges within it. So you are building, intervening, and evaluating, synchronously. So not relegating evaluation to a different phase. That's one thing you have to know about action design research. So sometimes the last exams, they had a paper. I read the paper and I read with them. I told them this paper is action design research because the paper is like so technical that it's difficult for you to really figure out, because you may read a paper and they don't state it clearly that this is action design research. Just like you read some papers and you don't even know what's their claim, what's their evidence. You don't even can see their research questions. And that's why most of these papers are like very, very, some of them can be very clumsy, for a younger PhD student like us. So you read, in depth and analyze in depth for you to figure out what's going on, So the most important thing once you discover that it's an organizational, intervention in the context of the design of an artifact, then they call it ADR. Building, intervention, evaluation. There are different levels, of the artifact definition, which we are going to see. So design action approaches, action design research is a way forward. So you pay so much attention to this. Pay so much attention. Yeah, because you might find a paper that is ADR. If it's an ADR, let me tell you, most integrative questions are usually ADR. The one we had during our own time was ADR. The one that those, who took after us was ADR. I'm sure the one you might get, those who are going to take this for might also be ADR. So two issues have consistently dominated the IS research: relevance of the research for practice, disconnect between academics and practitioners, the definition of the core of the discipline, separation of the research approaches and values between behavioral and technology-oriented researchers, opportunity, recent definition of the core of IS research around the IT artifact, role of academics as creating and propagating knowledge about the development and use of artifacts. What is an artifact? It's an ensemble. Yeah, ensemble. This concept of ensemble artifact is usually in ADR that you hear this ensemble artifact, contextual and emergent. These are the concepts that defines, an artifact built, designed within an organizational context. That's when you begin to hear most of this called an ensemble, contextual and emergent. So because the artifact emerges, within the organizational concept. So it's an ensemble artifact, contextual. Ensemble, those bundles of material and cultural properties packaged, socially recognizable form of hardware and software. Our thesis, the study of emergent ensemble artifacts, we need to a fresh approach, okay? Both technological and organizational contexts. Shaping of the artifact via design and use influences influences of designers and users. This ensemble definition reflected a technology as a structure. The view of the ensemble artifact, where structures of the organizational domain are inscribed into the artifact during its development. Pay attention. Where structures of the organizational domain are inscribed into the artifact. So to tell you that the artifact embodies the organizational culture or practices. So that's what it means. So the ADR, AR, DR, and the ADR. Social sciences, management. Here at the Center of the Information System Research, we have the action research. We have action design research. We have a design science research. So on this level, we have social sciences and management research. AR can, intervention in social sciences and management sciences, AR and DR, engineering and natural sciences. And then action design research cuts across the two, action and DS, so AR, ADR. So within the information system domain. So kind of bringing the design science and the action research together in ADR, the organization and also the practices of design science together in action.
Just a quick question. Yeah, so for the qualified exam, we don't need to draw any of these graphs, right?
No. You don't need the graphs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't need the graphs. Where you expected, there's a reasonable hope of expectation, for drawing graphs or whatever is in 504.
504.
In 504, and possibly also in 503. So expect 503 and 504 might need like a table. They can table or like model for 504 or a table for 503.
Oh, okay, tables.
Like
okay.
Spring 21, they asked them to draw an algorithm for qualitative research, algorithm, So it was put in tabular form. Okay. So you can draw the table.
For 503?
Yes.
What does that look like? Algorithm for qualitative research?
For qualitative, state everything that needs to, if you're doing a qualitative research, what are everything that needs to be considered? For instance, we mentioned it the other time, think about what's the unit of analysis, what is your theory, what is the subject, what is the kind of data you are going to collect, what is the data analysis approach, what's the software you're going to use for, what's going to be like a possible outcome, so all those stuff, so how are you going to sample, how are you going to collect data, so all these things, you put them together, form an algorithm. How are you going to report your research outcome? Is it going to be book, journal, conference, all this stuff? What is going to be the tone of reporting? Is going to be active voice, passive voice, is what your mode of analysis is going to be a top down or bottom top, all the stuff. That's the algorithm. It's very simple. If you know the qual well, coming up with an algorithm is an easy thing. We dwell on it and then we emphasize it so much. So in that kind of question, you put on a tabular, representation of the whole idea. It becomes easier for you than just writing it without a table. So expect tables in 503. I expect to draw models in 504. Yeah, if you can draw faster with your computer, grab all these shapes, insert them, put the arrows fast. There's no time for that exam. So some of the questions might specifically, require you to draw a model. In the past, we've seen questions like that, where you are required, to draw a model representing the theoretical constructs. So you have to do it. So open up your mind. Time is your greatest enemy in every exam. 4 hours. Before you know it, PM time is over. And think about the number of time, the time you spend thinking, time you spend proofreading, time you spend formatting, you know. Have to manage your time very well. Because everything, all the 3 papers in the first day, you know, within 4 hours, so let me say 1 hour, 15 minutes for each paper. Once it's 1 hour, 15 minutes, you leave that one and then move to the next one. And come back later. So characterizing design science, design research, okay. No emphasis on organizational evaluation, you see, for design research. Construction and evaluation of technology artifacts to meet organizational needs, yeah. Development of associated theories, good. Axiological emphasis on utility, good. Relevance evaluated by utility, provided to organization, but there's no emphasis on organizational evaluation, evaluating within the organization. But you can do field deployment, you know, but you're not evaluating the artifact in the context of the organization. I like action research. You know, action researchers are among those who assume that complex social systems cannot be reduced to meaningful study. They believe that human organization as a context can interact with information technologies, can only be understood as a whole entity. So a key implication of this assumption is that, you know, factoring of a social setting like an organization and its information technology into variables or components will not lead to useful knowledge about the whole organization. So the fundamental contention of the action researcher is that complex social processes can be studied best by introducing changes into these processes and observing the effects of these changes. That is deliberate intervention, deliberate manipulation, you know, to see, observe these changes within, apply like your theories, bring your theories to the organization and let them bring their practice, and let's see how theory and practice, you know, contributes to the solving of a problem. Action research always involves a team that includes researchers and subjects as co-participants in the inquiry and the change experiences. So this overview of action research, okay? We have the diagnostic, the therapeutic stage, and then, you know, so these, of course, we have a action research cycle, you know, in Qual, you know, diagnostic phase, understand the problem, apply, evaluate, and learning. There is that cycle.
This action, this research in design, is it the same as the one in Qual?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
They have similar, like you have the diagnostic stage, understand the problem, then think about the solution, apply the solution, evaluate the solution, and then learning. You know, what did you learn? So they have the same concept, the same ideas. You know, action research, consulting is motivated by commercial benefit, motivated by scientific prospects. This is the least publishable, you know, the action research, because it's difficult to actually do organizational intervention and at the same time come up with a research paper, you know. Commitment to research community, to client alone approach, collaboration is essential. So this is a comparison of action research and consulting. We have also participatory action research, diagnosing action. Look at the cycle I was talking, yeah. Diagnosing, action planning, action taking, evaluation, and specifying learning. This is the same cycle we have in this is from, who is it? No, this is not from Bakersfield. It's from another researchers in 543. So in the Qual, you have this same cycle. You know, that's why I said they're all related. You know, they call it here participatory action research. So we have other forms of action research, and then characterizing AR. The sees artifact as a black box. You know, produces high relevant result while simultaneously informing theory. Focuses on practical problems with theoretical relevance. Central assumption: complex social processes can best be studied by introducing change into these processes and observing their effect. Fundamentally, a change-oriented approach. That is action research. When you want change in an organization, you go for action research. So you do the deliberate manipulation, bring changes into the process and observe the effects of those changes. So concerns. What is the role of theory? AR community divided into prior theory and how do integrations contribute? So the role of the user, research, action design research. So that's where we are now. Action design research integrates area and DR, recognizes that IS has a dual mission, adding to existing theory, producing knowledge to support IS professionals in solving current anticipated problems. So they subscribe to the notion that the core that separates IS from other disciplines is developing IT artifacts. Yeah. So builds knowledge by simultaneously intervening in an organization through developing an artifact, intervention and development of an artifact. Look at the process. I mentioned earlier, the BIE. Don't forget it. The BIE, problem formulation, building, intervention, and evaluation. Problem formulation, building, intervention, and evaluation, reflection and learning, formalization of learning. Have this.
Yeah, can you give more details about it, please, Clement?
Have this in your mind. Problem formulation within the organization, then a building, evaluation, and the intervention and evaluation within the organizational settings. Then you draw on learning, reflection and learning, and then formalization of learning. They're going to explain it. Look at the first stage. Identify and conceptualize the research opportunity. Formulate initial research questions. Cast the problem as an instance of a class of problems. Identify contributing theoretical basis and the prior technology advances. Secure long-term organizational commitment. Set up roles and responsibilities within the organization. This is the first stage, problem formulation. The second stage, building of the technology artifact. Intervention and evaluation are intricately interwoven. And this is what makes the ADR stands out from other research, from design science research. They are intricately interwoven. Deployment in the organization to both evaluate the theory and solve the problem formulated. Evaluating the theory and solve the problem formulated. Deployment within the organization. So building, intervention, and evaluation are intricately interwoven. So deployment in the organization to both evaluate the theory. Remember when I told you in the past that evaluating an artifact is also evaluating the theory that forms, the kind of theory that, inspires the artifact. So that's what, and then so here also solving the problem you formulated. And then the third stage is the BI principles. Reciprocal shaping, emphasize the inseparable influences from the two domains, the IT artifacts and organizational context. Inseparable. Mutual influencing those. Mutual learning among participants in an ADR project, and then authentic and concurrent evaluation, formative evaluation. Formative evaluation. Because it's evaluation of feedback. Formative evaluation is a kind of evaluation where you get feedback to develop, to refine the artifacts. So this is the BI principle. And the BI tasks. Discover initial knowledge creation targets, select customized BIE from executive BIE, and then assess need for additional cycles. Keep on repeating. Reflect on the design and redesign during the project. Evaluate adherence to principle. Analyze intervention results according to stated goals. That is reflection and learning. And then formalize learning. Abstract the learning into concept for a class of field of problems. Share outcomes and assessment with practitioners. Articulate the outcomes as design principles You see, sometimes people say, what are design principles? You know, this could be outcome of a design. The outcome of a design could be, you know, abstracted as design principles. Because in the past, they've been asked, what's the difference between design theory and design principles? You know, so the outcome of a design, the design theory could be an output, an output of a design research, you know, which is when design principles that embodies a theory have been, you know, abstracted to the highest level of being a theory. It's design principles that gives rise to design theory. But at the lower level, we have the design principles. At the highest level, we have the theories. You know, the cycle for building theories. So articulate the learning in the light of the theory selected and then formalize results for dissemination. So these are the whole thing. We have the Volvo case, how they apply this, you know, how they did the ADR in the organization, and then contribution, you know. So, and that's all. So that's problem definition is very necessary. Mention problem definition, yeah. The first stage of this cycle, this is like the things you need to bear in mind. The problem formulation, the BIE, the reflection and learning, and the formalization of learning. Just bear this four in mind. So if you are evaluating any paper on ADR, these are the things you are going to look out for. What's their theoretical contribution? How do they abstract the principles? Because they're going to state how they abstract what kind of principles they abstract. Do they make any claims of having designed or come up with a theory or the principle? Did they formalize their learning? What are formal concepts? You know, how do they evaluate? Do they have a theoretical framework? Because they must state the theoretical framework, because you are going to make a theoretical framework in addition to solving a problem. So if you forgot everything about ADR, don't forget, you know, the intervention within the organization, and the artifact is tightly coupled with the context and embodies the organizational practices and culture. You know, that evaluation, building, evaluation, and intervention are interwoven, unlike in design science, where you build an artifact and then evaluate at a later stage. With this, you have everything you need for design science and ADR.
Could you go back to difference between design principles and design theory? You said design principles.
It wasn't stated in this slide. I drew upon our previous explanation. What we hear is draw from the outcomes. The outcome of the, because you do some level of abstraction. Understand? You abstract from learning, abstract the learning into a concept or a class of field of problems. What you learned in designing the artifact. So you do the abstract, you abstract what you learned. Maybe you learned that in designing the artifact, you know, we have to wait a couple of hours before we continue, or it is preferable when, you know, best for newer employees than the older ones. You know, there are some things you learn when designing the artifact. You do this abstraction, and they say that maybe this artifact is better designed with new employees in a company, or with this particular department. You know, there are some kind of things you learn. Could be about the timing, or it is best evaluated with when people have this kind of technology, maybe when the company provides the technology, or when they are asked to bring your own device, BYOD. So it could influence what goes on, people using their own computers, or, you know, so all the stuff could be something you learned to abstract the learning. And that abstraction means coming up with a general principle to say that this artifact is well designed in an organization that implements BYOD. It becomes like a formal principle, you know, abstracted.
So abstracted design principles give rise to design theory.
Yeah, so what you abstracted are design principles. You are the outcomes of the design, articulate those outcomes. These outcomes are the things you learned, so they are articulated, these outcomes are the design, the principles that went in. They could also be heuristics, that went into the design of the artifact. So design principles are like abstractions of knowledge learned in the designing of the artifact. So there's the principles. These are the principles. And these principles can also lead to design theory when they are, further, when they are further conceptualized, operationalized, and then subjected to theoretical rigor. They could also come up as a design theory, because every theory also involves some principles, constructs, models. So that's the difference between a design theory and a design principle. Principle are simply outcomes, That's why it's stated here, articulate outcomes as design principles. So they are outcomes of the design. But design theory could be an output of DSR approach. So principles are different from the theory. The theory has a higher degree of conceptualization,
Is that theory is actually?
Yeah, so a theory has a deeper degree of conceptualization,
Yeah, but you said it's also an output of.
It's an output. A theory could also be an output of design science research. It's one of the outputs.
Yes,
one of the outputs of DSR. So that design principles are outcome, the design research. Principles are things you learned, from the research. Principles that principles go in and also come out of the artifact. There are design principles that you drew from the knowledge base that informed the design of the artifact. There are also principles also coming, as outcome of that design. So, like most of these things, they could be very confusing, So taking from taking principles from the knowledge base and abstracting design principles from the artifact design, which are outcomes. And then you can formalize, articulate the learning in the light of theories selected, and then formalize the results. So ADR, very, very, very important. I'm sure the integrative question you are going to get this time will be ADR. It has been the same in the previous years, and it is usually very voluminous article. The integrative question paper is not a 4-page or 3-page paper. So it's
no, but for the calls, right? The QE,
yes.
The papers they give you to read pre the exam. You said there are 3 or 4.
3 papers.
3 papers. Okay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can grab an ADR paper from my computer. Yeah, let me see.
You have access to MIS Quarterly.
Do I have access? Do I have subscription to that?
Oh, do you know where somebody can get? Because I'm sure some of these papers will come from there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have access to MIS Quarterly papers.
Oh, okay.
From our library.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And it comes out 4 times a year, right?
Yeah, every
Okay.
CGE student have access to any paper. Let me look at the articles. Let me see if I'm gonna see this paper. Gulati. Is it Gulati? Looks like, is it Gulati the paper we read? Let me check. No, not 30. The one where I'm just giving you, searching for an exemplary ADR paper we had. No, what I'm seeing here, not, and these are articles, supplemental resources, data sets, and the,
Clement, how long it takes you to read the 3 articles before the exam?
we read it over and over again. Can finish 3 of them in 2 days. And then you read over and over again, over and over again, over and over again to digest it. What am I? Why am I? Why is it this thing not here? You know, that's wait, I will surely find it. So meanwhile, if you have other questions, we can be discussing while I grab that paper. I better find it easily on my iPad. Let me, you know,
I start getting scared, man.
No.
Yes.
You are only still far away in spring. If you start getting, you know, if you start getting scared,
You know,
by this time, it's too early.
The people with me and the in the 504 and 503 classes, I tell them, don't worry, Clement will make you the qualifying exam very easy.
Yeah.
But now, like when I hear the 3 articles, man, the thing is because I work though, I don't know if I have the time to do it or not.
You will.
This
Sure.
is my problem.
But you need to take some permission out, you know, because you need to, those last 1 week, you need to like just lose the money if you can't come to work. They need to give you.
It's not about losing the money. It's hard for my job. It's hard to get the time off. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine like I remember one time I traveled to Europe and I was asking like for 3 weeks. They only approved 2 weeks, and I showed them like the tickets. Was a long story. Yeah.
Why? I'm looking for an article on wildlife. You know, I have too many papers on my, I don't know. Because I know I read all my papers on my iPad here. So I didn't know why that, you know, may not tick. Look at this one. Okay, I've seen them. This one is the one for 504, for 543. Can you see it?
Yes.
This is the paper
Can you
for
share
543
the textbook?
for fall 2021, our own set. This is the 503 paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 pages.
But hey, Mohammed, wasn't this given as one of our papers for 503? No? I can't remember. No. Okay.
No, I don't think so. No.
This is Communication of Association of Information System, a top tier journal. So you see, like how this is not a journal for, we didn't critique this paper. We drew upon principles. Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, we drew upon principles of this, but I memorized a lot in this paper. I memorized all these cycles because the questions came exactly the way it's written here. The questions are like these cycles, this internal and external cycle, you know, they're all there. So you need to read and digest the paper like you are the author. So this is the 501. This here is the yes, this one is the A. This is one. This one is the integrative question. Sustainability design principles, for wildlife management analytics and action design research. European Journal of Information Systems, top tier journal. You see it, this for the ADR.
Did Monk share
This
this
for the
paper with us?
integrative question. This one is for the integrative.
Did Monk share this question with us, this paper with us? Did we ever look at this? I don't think.
No. So look at the number of pages, 23.
So integrative question covers everything together or just?
Everything. But the questions are going to be drawn from this paper. But you're going to apply your general knowledge of ADR, DSR, AR, IX in general. That's why they call it IQ. IQ question. Remember the concept of IQ question when we are doing in elementary school, So that's that IQ question. I want to test your intelligence. Integrative
I
question.
have no intelligence, man, on the qualifying exam.
Integrative question. That is IQ. And IQ questions are not based on, in as much as it will be drawn from this paper, they have a wider options, for answering them. So this is Pan et al. This is the paper for, and then the other one is okay, no, this one is for 503. Gaskin and Ruskin, this is another paper. This is for 504. This one is very shorter, This for AMSIS, This is a journal paper, journal AMSIS 2021 proceedings. So 1, 2, you see. Yeah, it looks like it's.
Can you go back, Clement? I want to ask you about something. This is the last paper you was exploring. There was like a text that was written in a different way.
A text, how?
Like a word cloud. Like a word cloud.
Yeah, this one.
Word cloud.
What is this?
They try to emphasize some concept. Use word cloud when maybe when you collect an interview transcript and you want to know words that appeared more from the respondents. Put the whole transcript copy the whole transcript, understand, into a word cloud. It's a cloud-based analysis software. You put it there, then it will highlight the words that appeared most.
You mean like Atlas think?
Not Atlas here, it's word cloud.
So for 503, Mohammed, we had a word cloud. It was written in Python.
Oh, I see. Because I did not study that.
Doesn't matter.
So what your knowledge about it, guys? The word cloud. What does it do?
It's just an analysis technique, just like analysis. Not
it highlights the frequency, of occurrence of certain words gathered from the transcript.
So when you see the words, if they're bigger, larger, or darker,
and you see words here that appeared most,
more.
These are like names. So that's what the word cloud is used for. You see how I do when I was preparing for this exam, you see how I do my annotation. That's why I encourage people always read with your iPad. I don't know what works for you, but reading from a computer, you might not get the best experience. I only have an iPad for reading. I don't use this iPad for any other thing, apart from all or my readings. I use the library to organize all my papers. You can see it. You know, all the journals I have ever read ever since I entered the CGU, they are all here on the iPad, you know, well organized. Look at how I do my annotation. You know, I highlight and then put a comment.
Let me see your comments.
Yeah, let us see your comments.
Look at, you know, these have not been studied a lot.
These have been studied a lot.
Oh, okay, these have been studied a lot. Let me see some other one I can, you know, received less attention. And then what's another one I highlighted here, you know? Okay, no research yet. And then picture this one. What's the comment here? Okay, acknowledging limitation. And then, what is this one here?
Any reason behind the different colors?
Yes.
Yeah, this is like kind of the software that we, you know.
You know once in highlights the major ideas, the green ones, you know, some other important considerations, but they are not the primary ideas on the paper. Why I don't know this one is not, I don't know why this. So possibly if you're reading, you're highlighting, because most of these things are like, you know, for you just to remember and memorize few things as you are reading most of these papers. So they are really helpful in, you know.
Yeah, it is like PowerPoint slides, you know.
Yeah, because all these things I said, limitation acknowledgement, like I memorize most of these acknowledgements, you know, because when I critique the paper, I mention some of these things. That's why I have to put, you know, the comment behind it, you know, simple comment about what that thing. That will help you to remember, you know, when you think about that, acknowledge the limitations of the paper, this thing will help you when you are reviewing the paper the second time, you know. So if you just read without annotation, oh, I'm sorry for you, you know, because reading like 3 or 4 papers, this should be like 4 papers we are given. There is another paper, you know, I think it should be 4 papers. There is another, no, this one is not been. There's another poorly designed paper. Maybe I didn't upload it here, you know. There is another smaller paper we read that almost like messed up some stuff. You know, the messed up paper. So this is my iPad. I don't know what works best for you, but you know, even my dissertation papers, you know, they're all here arranged. Everything I'm reading, they're all here arranged. It's easier to find them here, all put together in one central database. You know, they're searching for them here and there. Let me stop sharing from here. It's easier for me to find papers here than any other place. You know. So even on the Google Dropbox,
I thought you said you use Zotero, the software.
Zotero, that's when you are doing research, you know, it has nothing to do, it has nothing to do with a qual, you know. Look at Zotero here. So look at Zotero, you know. It automatically, if I want to grab any citation, I'm using iPad 7th edition, you know.
What is your citation software, Clement?
Zotero, that's the Zotero here. Without this Zotero, I'm lost. Thanks to this.
Zotero is free?
Yes.
And can it allow you like to insert citation to Word or no?
Yes. If you want to, I thought I've mentioned this the other time. If you want to insert something here, yes, my dissertation, this is the last paper I read today. You know, each paper for dissertation, each paper I read, this is annotated bibliography.
Yeah, I can see it there and then like attached to after review.
If I want to add, I simply click, you know, come down here, for instance, then you, let me move this thing out. Oh, how do I drag? Okay, now it's done. Look at Zotero here. I added a Zotero extension to the word.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Add citation, you know, it brings up. You mention the name of the book or the author, understand, you know, it comes up. Maybe the one you're looking, you just click. Yeah,
Oh, so when you
look at added. Yeah.
so it's search on the software.
Yeah, if you want to bibliography, click on bibliography. It also adds. So you add the Zotero extension to Word.
When you add the citation, though, does it include in the reference or just the citation?
The reference.
Okay. Yeah, I use EndNote, but I paid only $20 on it, man.
You also open your Chrome. When you open your Chrome, you also add Zotero extension on your Chrome. Look at it here. The Zotero connector on your Chrome. That enables you to add a web page or any document you are currently viewing on your desktop to Zotero. You know, so I have two folders: cryptography paper and the dissertation article. So I highlight each one I'm using at any point in time. Anyway, this is an important digression. So we've seen the example of.
Let me because you're a user of Zotero, can you make a groups or no on the articles? Like
No. You can also share. Yes, you can collaborate with
for example, like you make a group for Article C method, and Article C has some sort of references. Does this has this capability or no? Oh, yeah. Like for example, like my library, in your library, can you make a folder that you specify a particular articles there or no?
I haven't explored that much. Understand? I haven't explored that much. Here is another. When I collaborated in the past, when we did the design science class, when we worked on the final research paper, I collaborated with a group. So this is our group library, NBE taxonomy, So this is a shared group library, shared.
Oh, so so you have the capability for the group to work together in the same folder.
Yes.
Oh, that's good, man. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And add papers together. Yeah. So we added paper. Anyone who sees something good relating to our project, you add the paper here. So
that's good, man.
Yeah. So good. So what do we have here finally? Okay, we have DSR applications and publishing. In the past we have seen questions coming from publications. They could also be very necessary for you to understand. Okay, healthcare. Let's flip through it. A DSR. Professor Chatterjee loves the healthcare, always drawn to healthcare research. So remote patient monitoring, remote technology, a theory of permanent. Look at a theory of patients empowerment. That's his kernel theory. So here's the research problem or the research question. DSL, a startup. So look at the initial conceptualization of the idea, and look at the statistics based on existing solutions. Look at the research opportunity. So provide evidence of the problem on the ground. So all these things are like trying to show you what's on ground. It's a kind of literature review. These are the people who are involved, the patients, and also the providers, which means there's going to be multiple evaluation. And look at the challenges, identifying the problem relevance, the relevance of the problem, within the organizational domain. And then look at the challenges, look at the solution, proposed solution, which should be at the middle of the research cycle, assistive technology and predictive analytics. Look at the kernel theory, behavior model. So you look at how this theory provided inspiration to the solution, Look at the kernel theory to self-care of heart failure. Look at, 208. So it has a kernel theory. Look at the ideation process. That is the design thinking process. These are the design architecture. That is artifact, form, and the function. So look at the form and architecture. So it's going to be the patient, the clinicians, the heart app, the glucometer, the biolink, and then, So sometimes if you are asked in DSR, when you are stating your artifact form and mention maybe it may be a software solution, but it may be a problem that should also be linked. So if you are someone who is very good in maybe you have a very good knowledge of networking, and you think you're networking, or you have very good knowledge in database design, and you bring in your domain expertise when you are stating the artifact form and function. Bring in your domain. If you're in robotics and you think maybe your question is related to your domain of expertise, or your solution you are proposing comes from your domain of expertise, apply it here. Apply it here. So you see it here. Then look at the software. Look at the dashboard, how it's going to be, analytics, key findings. And then I think they do the evaluation. Look at the feedback. The feedback is like the qualitative evaluation they did. So by these people saying this, like in qualitative research, the best way to show credibility of your research is also to state the actual responses of the people. If you're doing a usability testing and your usability evaluation, qualitative evaluation of your design artifact, it's good to report this kind of thing, feedback from people to show that it is really working. That's what it shows. It's a kind of evaluation they did here. And they see how they applied everything within the context of the research cycle. Remember I told you, am I still sharing? Am I still recording?
I think, it looks like you're still recording.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, looks like he's still recording.
Yeah. So you see what I was telling you the other time. If you're answering any question, plug in whatever your idea solution into the cycle. You see it here. Look at their solution, the IT artifact, this and this and this, the software, and then this hardware. The relevant cycle, the rigor cycle, the actual design of the artifact, evaluation. Look at the knowledge base. They use this fog behavior theory. They use data mining approaches. There is readmission prediction. They use design science research. Design science research also as a rigor, as an approach to solving the problem. Even though it's doing a design science research, also use design science as, knowledge base. So to see it, that's why I asked you, don't fail to mention this cycle. So what happened next? Okay. The rest are story, Did a very good literature review, the theory model, you see the theory model, So source, Dr. Allah Al-Haidian, Ph.D. dissertation. So the theory model, how many constructs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, power filling intention. This is from one of us, who passed in the past. So of course, like every dissertation has come up with like your own model, and then and the rest. So he used the structural equation modeling, to model the path coefficients and the relationship between the different constructs. So
did they use PLS?
I don't know. It could possibly be PLS they use, sure. So it's a very good, nice work from Professor Chatterjee. Very nice job.
Yeah, I like the interface, like the graphic.
Yeah, that man is very intelligent. Yeah, he's a product. Look at the software. And he's making a lot of money from this startup, not even what CGU is paying.
Oh, so like he already like marketed?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, get a lot of research grants, When you propose a research that will have a lot of grants, you're already on your way to heaven. So finally publishing. So this night we actually ending with DSR. Wow. So DSR took us another 2 weeks.
How much you got on the DSR, like, Clement?
I got A or A plus. I don't know. It's like A I got. It's only one course I've gotten B in CGU. That was SQL. SQL was like my worst course I ever took in CGU.
How much you got in 503, 504?
504. I got A in 504.
Nice. And 501?
I got A in 501.
Oh, nice.
All the other ones are A's and A plus, Oh, looks like there's nothing. Why is it publishing? Why am I clicking on the publishing model and something is coming up? Publishing, instructional materials, publishing strategies. Where is it? It disappears. There is problem with the link.
You also look like out of battery now.
Yeah, I think maybe the link have truncated. Okay, let me just do download and see. It's just the same thing. So maybe it's no longer there. Funding. And it's a very important thing that we really need to look at. We would have, all these things we are refreshing our mind. Funding. So, but the little I could share about funding is, usually we propose an idea, then if you have a very good idea, there are many outlets. We have the national NIX, right? National. We have a national health, NHIX. It's an outlet. We have the NF, small business, SBIR, small business enterprise research, and then we have a national. There are like 3 major outlets that provides funding for. Do any of you remember any of them? Like I've mentioned like 2 now. National Science Foundation. We have the National Science Foundation, the NSF. Have the SBIR and possibly other organizations out there that could provide funding for. Each of them have procedures and requirements on how to submit your idea to them. So you follow their procedures and then you propose your idea, and then request for money for to come up to develop your initial idea. So you provide a lot of information about the the kind of research you have to do, maybe provide an abstract, and then if you have a prototype.
So you have to have a supervisor, or you can do it on your own, or how this works?
You need to affiliate with the organization, sometimes you need to, have some recommendation from maybe your own school, maybe from a professor who would, who will back you up. And if it is a research that requires involving human beings in the research, human agents, you might need to obtain from the I have to obtain permission from what's the name of this saying? The research IBR, what do we call it again? I've forgotten. So you get a permission from them, authorization to question human beings, to work with human persons, So all these things are some of the important things we need to know about funding. There are much more information out there, but I don't know why.
What is the list of the funding, Clement?
What?
Where we can find the list for funding?
Funding. No, but usually funding, you check most of this like these websites, organizations I mentioned, the National Science Foundation. You can check on their website and then know when they are accepting, a National Science Foundation. Look at them here. They sponsor a lot. National Science Foundation, NSF.
Can you throw the link on the text chat, please?
Look at the funding. nsf.gov.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, funding and awards. So you search them and then National Science Foundation, you see them here, So you're publishing your paper, you choose whether a conference or a journal, you're going to know what the requirements of the journal you are going to publish, and then follow their requirements, and they submit your papers as at when due, Remember the importance of theory for these journals. So you choose an outlet as you might find fit for your research.
How did you learn about it, Clement?
National Science Foundation. When I was doing my systems engineering, I actually proposed an idea, but I didn't submit it again. Okay, my own idea was that was a vehicle geofencing immobilizing system. It was an idea I loved so much, passionate about. I was so passionate, but I realized as time goes on that it's not an area I could be able to research and come up with anything, So geofencing immobilizer, though the systems are now available in the market. You set a geofencing immobilizer on your car. If someone steals your car, and then once it goes beyond that geofenced zone, the car will automatically, switch off. So, but what we have now currently in the market, like in Nigeria, they installed a system on your car. You can call the number, that is linked with the device on your car. You can monitor the car remotely. The SIM card on the device that is hidden inside the car, deep down the dashboard. The SIM card will respond to you with a message, showing you the location of the car. You can also switch off the car, turn it off remotely, understand? But this geofencing I proposed then was like, it will be installed in your car. If you're living in Rancho Cucamonga, I said this car should not go beyond Rancho. Once it is in the hands of another person, once it is parked, once the car is parked, then the system is activated. When you are the person driving the car, then you have to immobilize it so that it doesn't stop you. But once you park your car, it activates. So if someone breaks into your car to drive it off, it wouldn't go beyond Rancho. The car will stop anywhere once it exceeds that virtual boundary. So it was like my idea I wanted to, but it's not possible to work So I have to leave it. Oh yeah.
That's a good idea, brother.
Geofencing, yeah, so I call it geofencing immobilization. I wrote a lot of details about it, the idea, geofencing immobilization system.
Yeah, I would just, if you have a free time, man, just go ahead and send it.
Yeah.
Especially now, like you have good skills in writing the research.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's still an option. There's still opportunity, to do that.
Did you publish